everyone, this is Freddy again with Superbike Unlimited, and the last time you saw me, we were rushing together our 2018 bike with some of the good stuff that we're going to be running on the 2019. And so, long story short, that didn't go super well. The chassis and everything was fantastic, but the cylinder head that I mentioned that we had borrowed to get through that race weekend wasn't so great. Had some major problems out of that, and as a result, we didn't even get through more than a couple laps at a time. So didn't get to race, didn't really get to do anything worth repeating or worthwhile. So overall, that trip was a bit of a bust, but that's how it goes sometimes. So we're back and we're on to the 2019 bike, which is here. Right now we're breaking it in on the dyno. We'll try to get you some footage of a couple of pulls, and we're just gonna see how much horsepower it makes, just completely stock and untouched. And then of course from there, we're going to weigh it, which we have some corner balancing scales for cars, which will be really helpful because they're incredibly accurate, and they'll give us the weight distribution of the bike front to rear. After that, we're gonna completely tear this thing down and go ahead and begin the transformation to full superbike. Just did our first few pulls after some break-in time, and here you can see what kind of power we're showing on this thing. We've got, get that right on in there. This is on our dyno, which is a little bit of a heartbreaker, and as you can see, we've got correction set to SAE. But bone stock, we got 169.8 horsepower. So no torque. That's primarily because I was too lazy to hook up the RPM thing. We're kind of short on time and got to get this thing moving, so didn't feel like turn off the airbox to get everything done. But here we're setting up the corner balancing scales we were talking about. These will give us a really precise measurement of the overall weight as well as the weight distribution of the bike front to rear. All right, so we have the bike on the easy weigh scale here, and this will show you exactly what this thing weighs. So we have 230 at the front wheel, 204, 205 at the back, for a total of 435. And that means that the weight distribution is 47% to the rear. So that's our starting point, and we'll be able to do this again once we're all finished up and compare and see how things look then. All right, so we've got our baseline numbers in terms of horsepower and weight, and I do want to make a quick comment about that, which is that if you know anything about these bikes, you know that stock, and you can see it on the curve, the ECU on these is heavily restricted out of the box. So like on the 2016 to 2018 generation, we could make like 25 horsepower just by flashing the ECU. So, you know, we don't know the full extent of what we can achieve on this exact bike by flashing the ECU, because this is literally the first one we've ever laid hands on. So, you know, if it's anything like the old one, we could obviously see some pretty impressive numbers. If this thing made 195 horsepower bone stock with just a flashed ECU, that would be huge on our dyno, at least. That would be a really impressive feat. So we don't know yet, but that's just something to keep in mind. That's not what this bike produces. That's just what this bike produces with that ECU configuration, which is quite restricted compared to standard. Then the weight. So that weight was pretty accurate. The main thing I did want to point out was, one, we only have 1.5 gallons of fuel in there. Obviously, if it was fully fueled up, you're going to have a bit more weight there, something like maybe 20 pounds. And then on top of that, the toolkit was missing and a handful of plastic, so probably another 5 pounds there. So just something to keep in mind, and to keep this completely fair and give you an understanding of exactly what the numbers that we're achieving are. So the next step is going to be, obviously, we're going to be completely stripping this thing down, and we're going to not touch the motor initially before this first test that we have, just again because of time. We're really tight on time now. So our first test, we're going to be running the engine completely standard. We will very likely run our alternate gearbox, but standard engine. And Everything else is going to be in place. Hopefully our electronics package will be here. And then as soon as we get back from that test, we'll be able to completely drop this thing down and install some of our engine components, which we're going to get into that later. So we're not going to document the complete process of like taking all this stock stuff off. It's kind of boring, and we're going to take our time and do it pretty slowly just because it's all brand new and we want to keep it in good condition. But we'll for sure come back at you with another video when we've made some progress. So stay tuned, and hopefully the next video we're going to be well on our way to building our best Superbike yet. Thanks for watching.